to share a poem with you called The Creation by James Weldon Johnson. I first heard it in my church during Black History Month, way back when I was a teenager in Chipley, Florida at Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church. A young lady named Shirley Lewis presented that poem, and I never forgot it. It's amazing how James Weldon Johnson penned it to go along with the scriptures in the Bible with a little poetry in between. And it goes like this. And God stepped out on space, and he looked around and said, I am lonely. I'll make me a world. And as far as the eye of God could see, darkness covered everything, blacker than 100 midnights down in a cypress swamp. Then God smiled, and the light broke, and the darkness rolled over on one side, and the light stood shining on the other. And God said, that's good. Then God reached out and took the light in his hand, and he rolled that light around in his hand until he made the sun. And he set that sun blazing in the heavens. And the light that was left from making the sun, he gathered it up into a shiny ball and flung it against the darkness, spangling the night with the moon and the stars. Then, down between the darkness and the light, he hurled the world. And then God stopped and looked and saw that the earth was hot and barren. So he stepped over to the edge of the world and spat out the 7 seas. He batted his eyes and the lightning flashed. He clapped his hands and the thunders rolled. And the waters above the earth came down. The cooling waters came down. Then the little green grass sprouted, and the little red flowers blossomed. The pine tree pointed its fingers to the sky, and the oak spread out its arms. The lakes cuddled down to the hollows of the ground, and the rivers ran down to the sea. Then God smiled again, and a rainbow appeared and curled itself around his shoulder. Then God raised his arm and waved his hand over the sea and over the land, and he said, bring forth, bring forth. And quicker than God could drop his hands, fishes and fowls, beasts and birds swam the rivers and the seas, roamed the woods and the forests, and split the air with their wings. And God said, that's good. Then God walked around and looked around on all that he'd made. He looked at his sun and he looked at his moon. He looked at his little stars and he looked at his world with all its living things. And God said, I'm lonely still. So God sat down on the side of a hill where he could think. By a deep, wide river he sat down. With his head in his hand, he thought and thought, until he thought, I'll make me a man. Up from the bed of the river he scooped the clay, and by the bank of the river he kneeled him down. And there, this great God, who lit the sun and fixed it in the sky, who flung the stars through the most far corners of the night, this great God, like a mammy bending over her baby, knelt down in the dust, toiling over a lump of clay until he shaped it in his own image. And into it he blew the breath of life. And man became a living soul.